you.
I'm good.
So we have today Christine Mapondera Talley with us, and that's great. I'm glad that it's working the Zoom and that I can see you clearly from here. So we have a conversation today. We're going to talk about the author, right? We're going to talk about the author. Christine is an author. You have your book with you, so we can also see your book. Great, yes, and it's Adventures in Morocco. Is that right? And
Yes,
and
correct.
we have a couple of questions. What we're going to talk about is we're going to try to um,
Okay.
unpuzzle all the mystery about self-publishing. And
Oh my
I
God.
don't know,
There is
I don't know. It's
so
gonna
much
be,
to unpack.
yeah, it's going to be an interesting conversation to see all the do's and don'ts. And is it yes a good idea, or if it's not, and where can we take it from there? Correct. So
Exactly.
okay, so let's go step by step. And you do have your first book, which you just show us right now. You want to hold it, your book right now?
Yes, of
Yeah.
course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here you
And
go.
there it is. And it's called, and we have a character, Makanaka's World Adventure in Morocco. And it's a
Yeah.
lovely, beautiful girl. And then there's a secondary character I can imagine that is the parrot, correct?
Yes. His name
Okay.
is Fari.
Furry.
Yep.
Sorry, sorry. So that's cute. So we have what is called the protagonist and the antagonist, basically,
Exactly.
in this book. And then the question, of course, is why published as a self-publisher author and not going with the traditionally, way of publishing or trying to be published from a publishing house company.
Sure. So, I guess for me, you can say that it was sort of a lucky thing because I didn't have extensive knowledge of the industry, right? So I had an idea of a book I wanted to create, but then I also happen to be a person that loves to create things in general and collaborate with people. And I love to research things. And so before I made a decision on how to publish this, I just started reading a lot, reading blogs and articles and different blogs. And I learned that there was a traditional path and then there's a self-publishing path. And I was like, well, self-publishing sounds entrepreneurial, and that's the kind of girl I am. And so, yeah, why not? And at that time, I was actually in the process of establishing a fashion brand. So I had a fashion brand called Sireka, and as I got more and more interested in book publishing, my vision for book publishing seemed to sort of surpass my vision for the fashion brand in a very short time span. And so I thought, okay, I cannot truly succeed at two startups because that's what they would be. I mean, yes, I had been doing the fashion thing for a few years, and I was feeling like I was at that point where it was going to start to be even more noticed. But then I felt this urge to pursue this writing thing. And then I wrote down my business plan, and it was so extensive. And that surprised me. I'm like, wow, I have these ideas that I did not have right away with the fashion brand. And so I thought, I have to invest money in one thing, because one thing I also knew from having the fashion brand, there are so many unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
There are going to be costs that you didn't even predict, right? And because you just simply are not knowledgeable enough about certain things. And so I made the decision to completely drop the fashion brand and just do the book publishing.
Okay.
And I'm glad I did it because my goodness, there is so much to know. But so that was how I got into self-publishing. I just wanted to build a company and to produce my product. That was solely it. So I think if someone is going into self-publishing a book, they need to think of it as they are starting a tiny company.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they're only ever going to publish their own work, that's
Yeah.
completely fine. I know people that only publish their work and they've been doing it for 10, 15, 20 years and they're doing really well, but they have an established company that protects them and their investment, because
Yeah.
what you're doing is an investment into your future, and you want to protect yourself from any weird, crazy potential lawsuits that may come up,
Yeah.
because people are
Yes.
weird,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So self-publishing, think of it as your own company for your own future, for your own work. And if you can't think of it that way, maybe you shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. So I think that the key here that you said for the audience that is gonna listen later on in the YouTube channel, I think that we're gonna have a cross section of new authors that they want to, or they're considering to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
maybe because they feel very strong that they have an entrepreneur also desired, right? Or a skill.
Right.
This isn't a skill, it's just not a desired, but that already helps you to place the path of choices. Am I going to be a self-published author, or am I going to go to the route of going to the exercise of pitching for the book or sending submissions, right? So I
Right.
think that it has to be really like maybe like a question uh, to yourself to know, okay, can I have the skills? Do I have the time? Do I have also the free space where I don't depend 100% from a job? Because, if you're working and you do depend on your job, it's very difficult to take time off. And we're going to talk about this as well, because when you start launching the book, there's going to be other responsibilities coming up to it. And then, it's not the same if a publisher kinds of like, holds you or hold your hand, kind of
Right.
hold your hand is just nice, but it's not exactly, what happens, because you have to do the work no matter what. At the very end of your book,
Right.
or if you want to be a self-published. But so what we're going to talk about is once you discover that definitely your personality and your path is becoming an entrepreneur, and you wanted to get into the editorial business, the question is, did you actually consider once to be published by a publisher house, or that thought didn't even come to your mind?
Not seriously. I entertained the thought, but then, my brain was like, well, yeah, they've got the whole machine figured out. They've got a whole team of people. But at the end of the day, I was like, well, somebody had to start the company, and they had to build it, and it grew and it grew and it grew. And so, and I remember, I can't remember the whole story behind Disney World, but I had read a brief biography about how Walt Disney started Disney.
Yeah, what an inspiration you took from.
Right?
Yeah, almost nothing.
Right, and the whole world, I should say nearly the whole world knows about Disney World,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, wow.
And so I was like, well, he did it. So in my mind, I'm like, well, it may look like I have nothing now, but it has the potential of being more.
That's great.
And the only way to find out is if I just start.
Wow.
Something.
So it's also the affirmation, right? You're bringing excellent points. You're bringing discover yourself. If you really want to be an author that wants to be an entrepreneur, once you discover that, yes, that's the path, then you have an affirmation, because you're very you're sure about where and how you want to get, you know what you want, where you want to go. You may not know yet how you are putting it together, the how, but you are mapping out the road from A to Z, right? And it comes,
and you're not going to have all the tools and the answers, or even the questions.
Yeah,
you have the answer, right? So I think you have to be comfortable and accept that. And that's not an easy thing to do. Look,
No.
there are moments that I'm like, oh my God, am I crazy? What am I doing? But then it doesn't last long, because at the core of it, I go back to why I am doing it, right?
Well,
And so that kind of overpowers the negative voices, so if I can call them that, because you have moments of insecurity, like, who do I think I am? I'm just learning all these things, and so maybe I should let the pros do it. But you know what? The pros don't know everything, because if you think of it, Yvette, if all the big publishers truly knew exactly what kind of book is going to be successful, all the books would be bestsellers. But they are not, because they're also trying to figure out the market all the time.
Of course,
they have their team.
There's no guarantees. You may have
Right.
a feeling, but there's no guarantees. It doesn't matter if you are self-published or not. And art is very subjective, and we know that, right? You can love a book of your friend, which happens to be an author, and you can embrace it, and you can even help her to promote it, but that doesn't mean that another person is going to have the same feeling and say, wow, this is a great book. In matter of fact, that's where critiques are, goosebumps that you get, because you don't know what critique you're going to get time to time. This is all subjective. But affirmation is very good. So affirmation is good. If you want to be a self-published, you need to have, you don't have to, you have to be sure about the fear factor, to put it away, to hide.
But don't do it alone.
Yeah.
That's the other thing.
Is very important, right? To eliminate fear factor.
Don't do it alone, because in a strange way, it's kind of contradicting that he says self-publishing, because the people that are truly successful as self-publishing, which I now more or less define it as independent publishing, have people around them that are part of that journey, right? Yeah. And so my editors, for example, those people I think are like the greatest gift ever, because I share my work with them. They see my blind spots, right? And they not only believe in what I'm doing, but they elevate what I'm doing.
Yeah.
By giving me the best advice possible.
You need a team. You need to, even if it's your family, right? Even if it's your husband or your boyfriend, your parents, your friends. They if you get involved with big supporters and not people that would say, oh no, you cannot do this. You have more chance that it will happen than, surrounded with negativity and negative people. Of course, it's going to be a hard thing to make it through. So advantages is your freedom also of choices, because then you do it the way you want it.
Right.
You choose. You are just choosing everything from the paper to to the colors, to
I've got to know so much about paper stock, and do I want this to be a gloss cover or matte cover?
All the vocabulary.
And even luckily I didn't have to learn anything about laying out the book itself. Yeah, because I have this very awesome book designer and editor, book designer that just figured out what font would make sense in this book and how to lay it out, right? So I got lucky in that way, because I know there are some people that will lay out their own books. And I don't know, I think from having the fashion brand, I kind of started to really appreciate people that are specialists.
That's true. That's true.
And so I brought that mindset over to book publishing. I was like, okay, who do I need to help me create the best product? Like, I may be the idea person. I'm the brains behind this world, but there are elements of this that I'm going to fail at. And so, just by, I'm constantly reading and researching. Like I read an article that leads me to the next thing and the next thing. And
Yeah.
before you know it, I stumble into somebody that I had no idea about. And before we know, we're like connected, we're talking. And so my illustrator in Australia, my art director in Australia, these are the people that like did magic essentially,
But
right?
see,
So you gotta be open-minded too. So some people are like, oh, I know so and so in my city, and we're gonna meet up with them for coffee and talk about it. No, it's not that necessary. Like, great, if you find somebody in your city, that's awesome, and you can hang out and discuss ideas, but don't limit yourself.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, be open.
No, and I think that what you're bringing here too, Christine, is that we are authors, but now think about author and illustrator, right? The author illustrator is gonna probably have more background, of course, of knowledge of how to put together a book, because he can actually enter into the program and design the layout, design
Right.
the text, the size, if he wants double spread. It's a lot of vocabulary to learn. The author is only limited of what he can do and how he can put it together, but he will still need, if he doesn't know how to illustrate, a designer to actually
Right.
spread the cover, and the cover is everything. At the end of the day, the first thing that you see in the bookstore is the cover, right? And
It's the
then you
cover.
book, and then you see the story, and then you read it, you see the illustrations, and then you see the story, depending on the age of the child. Because if the child still is a young learner, there's no way
Right.
he's gonna know what the text is about. So he's going to make his first impression with the cover and the
Yeah, that's
drawing
it.
and the drawings, and then your audience, which is the mom or the teacher or the grandma, will look at something either related to what happened on that day, on that week, on that month. Oh, Tommy doesn't like green vegetables, and I saw a book about green vegetables, and I'm gonna get it right now because I need to give it to my daughter, so Tommy can eat green vegetables. But then you get into the text, and then you read the text, right? And then you made a decision. So
Right.
now you also talk about a team. So you need freedom of also not depending on a job. You need a team if you are limited to your resources and knowledge. And we talk about affirmation. Yeah, put away all the fears, and the
Right.
entrepreneur mind, right? So now,
Right.
saying that, what are the disadvantages? Because we already point out good advantages. So,
Oh yeah, well, that's the awesome thing.
why should we even think to be an independent author? And what is the disadvantages about it?
Okay.
Or is there
So,
any? Is there any?
well, you know what? There's pros and cons to everything, right?
Yeah.
So I will
Yeah.
be I will be not a truth teller if I only spoke the good things
And
about
say, "Wow, it's wonderful! It's wonderful!
it's amazing. Jump on board.
Yeah, go for it! Go for
It's on
it!"
deck. So you have a lot to do, right? Because essentially you are the writer, but you're also the CEO of this thing you created, right? So now you have to sell this book. Yeah, it's awesome that you have a book, but you have to sell it. And if you don't like talking to people that much, that can be rough, because now you have to be this extrovert or try to be an extrovert, and you don't even know how to present yourself. You don't know how to do small talk or start a conversation. Where do you even go to sell the book? And do you go to events? Do you go to bookstores, or do you go to schools? How do you ask schools? I remember sitting down one time and emailing like a ton of schools just trying to get an author visit. Oh my God, that was like the most horrendous gig ever. And mind you, as traditionally published authors also experience some of this. Now, some of it have it a little bit easier once they have several books, because their publisher will kind of set up author events for them and get their name publicized, right? And the bigger houses certainly have a PR department that can get some PR done for you. So I think every author, whether or not they're traditional published or self-published, there's gonna be work to be done on the marketing and PR side. But certainly when you're self-published, you are doing all of that, and you may not have the right connections or channels to get you on the 8 o'clock news. I mean, it's hard for anyone, but I think every author that I have seen on Good Morning America or one of those shows has been from a big house. So I'm not saying it can't be done.
Yeah.
Hey, where there's a will, there's a way. However, I do know that all the ones that I have seen on there have been backed by a big house that has it. And maybe they had a publicist that's outside the big house. I don't know. But certainly there is some help there. Let's just put it
It's
that
called
way.
marketing,
Right?
right? It's probably also marketing. Is I think that everything reads within the sales and the success. I think a huge part is how you market the product, because we have seen it not only with books. Take anything, right? Take a YouTuber that is the next day an author, and he might even have had help of a ghost writer because it has right, because there's a lot of YouTubers that is obvious they don't have the skills of write. They are excellent
You're
communicators.
like, how?
They're cute, or they are intelligent because they do have success in their YouTube and they have huge followers. But
of course,
it depends on how even the YouTuber markets his channel, how the YouTuber is marketable through the publishing company, right? Because he already has a name or a brand name. And sometimes the content might not even be, wow, it might just be something nice that is out there, but not necessarily with a very good proposition to something solid to read or something new to read. But everything is marketing. So the sales are going to be a big indicator of how you market anything, from a cloth, fabric. We were talking about the clothing business to the meal. If you're going to decide to do catering for food, and you market your food as different uniqueness, and you show these amazing photographs and the steam of the food coming, and fresh, and obviously you're going to probably have a more chance to sell it than, everything is how you present your product and how it is presenting your book. Your book is your business card in certain
It is.
Right.
Well, another thing also that is a challenge is distribution. I'm in a lot of groups where people are really struggling with distribution or with the printing costs, right? So, so you want the book to be a hardcover book, which I have my hardcover book somewhere here nearby, which I had done offset, which offset is essentially you are paying upfront for a bulk amount of books, right?
Yes.
So whether it's 500, 1,000, 10,000 books, whatever. And one of the reasons why big publishers are able to, discount books dramatically or easily is because, by the time they print the books, they're usually printing thousands of books, and the cost per book is probably $1. I don't know. It's it's less than $2.
Especially if it comes overseas, right? Especially if it comes from
China. Right, overseas. And they're planning months ahead, and so they have time to build the marketing and get the sales teams out there, get books delivered to stores, books delivered to libraries. And so as an independent publisher, do you have a chunk of money just sitting there for you to do a bulk print run, get it done in China, or if you're not China, Canada, or the United States? And is there enough of a margin for you to be able to then offer a wholesale discount for bookstores? And if you do you have a distribution channel for the bookstores to buy those books from that distributor? Because they're not most are not going to buy directly from you. Now, I know there are some that are open to carrying some books on consignment, especially when you're local and people like you and you frequent the store and they know you and they want to support you. Sure, they're gonna say, yeah, we'll take 10 books on consignment or whatever they do.
Yeah,
and that's great. But at the end of the day, if you're trying to move volumes of books, how do you do that on a massive scale?
exactly.
And how can you do it in a way that financially it's not going to bankrupt you? So
the secret here for who is going to start considering being a independent publisher, right, or independent author, is that the money that goes up front, the first person that gets that money is the printer. The printer is the first one that is guaranteed 100% his payment, okay?
right.
Now, how long is going to take you as an author to recover that cost?
Right.
That is the question. And that's where probably that's one of the disadvantages. It's your money. It's not the publisher, the publishing house money, right? That if you're being published by someone, that's the risk that publisher is going to take.
They're absorbing all that risk.
Now, if you're going to be independent, that's your major risk, right? Because it's not going to happen in a month. You're not going to recover your money. Most of the publisher houses, even the medium and the big, large publishing houses, take over a year or two to recover the cost of the books, right? Because of the sales. It takes time to sell 1,000, 2,000, especially we know that the print is about 5,000 in medium and large companies, right? Probably like 5,000 to 10,000 because they come overseas and per unit is obviously less
compared to the China pricing. So I recognize that as the numbers get higher, the pricing gets to a point where it makes sense.
Okay. It gets lower. The price per unit brings it right lower. Okay, great.
Right.
Okay. So then
and then there's print on demand now. So of course, with Amazon's KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing platform, enables you to do print on demand. And
you have Ingram Micro, right?
And then you've got Ingram Spark.
Yes.
And Ingram Spark is the division that was specifically created for independent publishers so that they're able to, basically fulfill books. And if you don't know, Ingram is the largest book distributor, so it makes sense that they would also offer something like that because it just brings more business to them, right?
Yeah.
And you don't have to sell on Amazon. Even though you're using KDP, you could just use them for printing 10 books or 20 books, as you need them. So you don't have to worry about having hundreds of books. Maybe you're doing a local event and you need like 50 books printed, and they can do that. The cost, and they can only do soft cover. That's the thing about Amazon KDP. Only soft cover, no hardcover option for children's books, even for adult books. And then for Ingram Spark, you can print both softcover and hardcover. Now, I will say the hardcover printing cost with Ingram is astronomical. I'm like, my God.
I would imagine.
How can anyone make money on this? I don't even understand. So when I saw that, I was like, no, not even an option for me.
But what about the quality? Because I heard that the quality is not there yet. For a picture book, you don't still have a great end finished product. It's great for a novel that is soft cover and it's just a novel. That's fantastic. I would actually consider that, print by demand if I have a novel. But if I have a picture book, I haven't heard that the actual book comes really good. I don't know if they actually tuned their production with fancy equipment and they have now great machines, printing machines. Is it coming very good? Have you seen any picture book in by demand?
I tried both. First I tried Ingram Spark, and I like I said, I only, I wouldn't even bother doing the hardcover because I just didn't see the point. But I was like, okay, this quality is actually pretty good.
It was good.
Yeah,
okay. I haven't seen
it. Is good.
Okay.
And then I also tried Amazon KDP just to see, and the Amazon KDP printing, It's actually not as bad as I expected it to be,
Okay.
but it's not as good as Ingram, right?
Okay.
So
Okay.
having seen them, I have the offset printing from the initial bulk run that I did. And once I got rid of the bulk print, I didn't want to buy a whole bunch more books again. So I was like, okay, for now, I'm just going to transition to print on demand and just see how that works out. And so the cool thing is that when people buy books online, they are fulfilled by that printer
Yeah.
and shipped directly to the customer. So that, eliminates that part. But certainly you're giving up more money when you do it that way. So I think if it was an adult novel, there are certainly bigger benefits to
Yeah.
an adult novel
Yeah.
than there
Yeah.
is to a children's book, because
Yeah.
most people don't have color inside their adult novels. So
Yeah.
the cost of print is going to be lower
Yeah.
anyhow, right? Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I'm thinking.
So,
That's what I'm thinking. And so then to recap the negatives then is your investment that it will take a long time to be recovered, your distribution that you're going to have a very good plan to be able to actually sell the 1,000 books or more books, 2,000 that you're going to be, printing, and then the warehouse where you're going to stock those boxes. Because if you're an author that is going to be writing more than one title, and by the end of the year you have 3 titles that you want to publish,
oh my God.
time, 1,000 books times who knows how many boxes are those?
Holy crap. I know. And maybe, honestly, when you get that point where you're printing that many books, because you're publishing more and more books, hopefully that means you're getting more and more successful. And then you should really consider having a distributor pick up your work. Because just because you're self-published does not mean you can't have a formal distribution channel.
Yeah.
You can. There are different size distributors based on the size of the publisher, whether it's a one-person publisher or, a mid-sized publisher. So I've certainly come across smaller distributors that can take that on for you. And so now you no longer have to worry about storing and how the books are going to go out to the world.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important really to just do research. Just plan for the success, because why not plan for the success? Because the worst thing that would happen is that all of a sudden your book is a hit and you don't know how the hell to get it to people. People want to get the book.
That's a good problem to have.
Right? Right. And it's like, how do I get it? How do I get it to this store and that store? You don't want that. You just want to at least note it down somewhere, have like a running journal of things to consider in the future, what the steps are. Talk to someone on the phone, schedule a phone consultation, exchange a couple of emails. I do that all the time.
Yeah.
I do that with things that I may not be getting into right away, and I'm a member of IBPA, and IBPA is the Independent Book Publishers Association. They are a fantastic organization. I absolutely love that organization. Everything they
and you get a
stand
lot
for.
of feedback, and you get a lot of
Yeah. So, and what they do, I feel like they do such a good job providing resources for the author publisher like I am, and for the small press and the mid-sized press. So you can see that, okay, this service that's talking about distribution doesn't really make sense for me right now. But maybe this one, the next one down, might make sense for me in a year or two. Yeah. Right? So you have a starting point. You have a place to go to. You're not just like blindsided by this, this thing. And they even have, I don't have it in front of me, but it's called a publishing checklist that they created about a year or so ago.
Nice.
And it's, it tells you the things that you should be thinking about, like you want to get your ISBN numbers, right? And where do you get those from? You want to, register your book with the Library of Congress, all
That's
these little
true.
things
That's
that you
true.
should be doing so your book looks professional.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. So they're giving you the tools and the steps to make sure your book is taken seriously and not just something homemade. I use the term homemade a lot because you don't want it to look like you just slapped it together.
Yeah.
And I've been always wanting to write this book, and here it is, and it just looks like blah, like
No,
it's not exciting.
great. That's great. So one of the things that I was gonna ask you, that now that we kind of narrow a little bit the positive and the advantages and disadvantages, now positive things and negative things about this business as an independent author, is about, let's talk about school visits. You have your book now. So now you were able to receive your books. You got your boxes directly from the printer to your house or to your storage, your garage,
Right.
and wherever, your mom's house, wherever. And,
right.
Right. And then now what? Now you're excited, and let's say if you have kids, maybe it will be easier to tell your kids teacher, right? Hey, I have this book, and can I just tell a story or read aloud one of the days? Fridays read aloud, and you're lucky you have a child, you can do it. If you don't, then if you're not a mom and you don't have kids, or maybe you have friends that have kids, now what is the next step? How you approach the schools? And do they pay for the visit, or are you too young in the market to even consider get paid, Christine?
I know that's a pretty tough question. Don't even start me on that. This is I don't know if you're a member of this group on Facebook. What is the name of it? Creating Engaging School Visits. And oh my God, this is an ongoing debate about free versus paid, and so on and so on. And at the end of the day, a majority of the people agree that we are professionals and we should be paid for our time.
Yes, thank you.
As long as we are at a school engaging with children, sharing our expertise, that is time taken away from our creativity.
Yeah.
So I am on the camp, yes, you should be paid something. Now, it's up to you to make it nominal, or to make it moderate, or to make it pricier. I'm not going to call it pricey, because you determine your self-worth.
Yeah.
Right? And so my very first one, I believe, was paid. It was paid. And do you know how I met? And I put together my author visit pack and all this stuff. And honestly, I felt very insecure about it, because I'm like, well, this is my first book. Who's gonna even, want to pay me?
Yeah.
But you gotta push those things out of your brain and recognize that the fact that you got this far means you've done more than other people that do not have a book, or haven't even thought about doing it.
It's a business. And you said it. It's a business. It's not a hobby.
It's a business.
It's a business.
And I think self-published authors also sort of have a little bit of a level of insecurity.
Yeah.
Because how do I put it? There's a feeling of being inferior, right? And I'm not saying that it's true for everyone, but they often don't charge for that reason, right? And that's not a good thing. And my first, it wasn't a lot of money. It was just it was a family literacy night. So it was a very small and relatively quick event. But that happened because I was at the farmer's market in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So the farmer's market for maybe 4 hours, and one of their school social workers, I believe, happened to stop by my table. We talked for a few minutes, and she passed on my information. And a couple months later, somebody emailed me and said, we got your name from so-and-so. I want to invite you to our family literacy night. How can we buy your book? And how much does it cost? And I sent them my author packet. I offered them a discount on the books, and an educator's discount. And so that's how it happened. Now, I've done a couple other free things after that. Like my friend is a 5th grade teacher. And so I did a school visit for just her class, and it was great. It was really great. And I did another free thing for my daughter's classroom, it was World Read It Aloud Day earlier this year, and I
Yes,
offered to
nice,
come in and read my book,
nice.
right? Because I wanted to do that on World Read It Aloud Day. But I've done a number of school visits that have all been paid.
Yeah,
So
I think here the advice is to don't undervalue yourself, because
right,
you're gonna be the first one that doesn't believe in your product. And as an author, then this is what happens in reality. You
right,
have a book, you walk into school, the school wants to invite you for reading aloud your book. And if you say, I do it for free, obviously the person that is behind you and wants to charge for its time, the school will consider twice, because both of you are new, both of you are
yeah, it makes it harder.
new authors. It makes it harder for the one that really wants to value himself or herself. And
Yes,
both of you stay firm and say, okay, great, it's going to cost so much, and within a reasonable, pricing, then both of you have a chance. And then it helps to
yeah,
the one behind, and behind and behind, and then the
yeah,
market levels, and that happens with illustrators. If an illustrator is going to charge less, or is going to do it almost for free, the other guy that wants the opportunity
oh
has to
no,
bring down the pricing, because they are both, again, new illustrators, right?
yeah,
When you have 10 years of experience, listen. When you have even, I think that even the first year, there's a lot of people that they don't do things for free. They stand by what they believe. So I think
right.
that helps, right? To the seriously, that helps the market.
Oh, it does.
What is
I mean, I did one school visit that was, it was a kindergarten through eighth grade
yeah,
school.
yeah,
There was over 700 children in this school. Okay. Now, was I freaked out? Yeah, I was a little bit freaked out when I was first, invited. I was like, holy crap. I thought it was going to be a kindergarten to fifth grade school. But now we're talking over 700 kids, and I had to break it up into 3 sessions, which worked out fine. But there were at least a couple hundred kids each time,
yeah.
right? So it literally was a full day. I was there. I think I left I got there maybe 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Could have been a little bit
And
earlier.
like 3 o'clock,
And
pretty much you stay there.
I left at like 1:30. I was tired.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Of course,
Right. And if I had done that for free, I would have been a little bit salty.
yeah, yeah. And I think here the thing is that I tell you what it is, so we can share our experiences with the new authors that want to do this. Is that you can allow yourself to charge some money, and you're gonna have one chance, and that chance is if you do it right, and you do it
Mm-hmm.
professionally, and you excel in that storytelling, and you have an excellent product with a great story and content, the schools will call you after
Right.
and after, because if you screw it on the first time, your credibility about charging, it will not go strong.
Right.
I
And like everything else, research, talk to people. Hopefully you can find people willing to give you some advice. And even if you don't, just read as much as you can, and you only get better once you actually do the school visit yourself.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it's your personality that's going to win people over. It's your story, and sometimes we underestimate our stories. I was at this one school, and the kids really wanted to know about Zimbabwe, which is where I was born and raised. And so I was like, oh, I don't know why I didn't think that was something I should bring up in my conversation, right? Because you're just so focused on making sure it's perfect.
Mm-hmm,
You forget the simplest things that enhance the experience.
Yeah.
Right. And so I got multiple questions. And then I remember one girl wanted to know, how do you say I love to read in your language? And I was like, oh my God, I'm blown away. So, I mean, think of 150 kids chanting "I love to read" in your native language, and it's never happened in your whole life, and it's just like, holy crap, where am I? What just happened? And I wrote down the pronunciation guide to the media specialist before I left. But so that to me on that day was just a reminder. The whole experience was a reminder that there was no Facebook group, no webinar that was going to teach me how to be me.
Yeah. You have to be yourself. You have to be authentic to all the considerations of the text, from putting together a book to the presentation as you as an author have to be authentic, right? And if it's authentic, you'll do really an amazing job. And so then let's talk about distributing books. It doesn't matter if you're going to be participating in an event that is inside a bookstore, okay, and the bookstore has agreed to distribute your books, or if you're going to participate in a farmer's market and you're going to distribute your books there. Of course, you are going to be the one who is actually selling the books in a farmer's market. The question is, how do you choose where to go? Do you pay attention about your time, also benefit cost, about where to go? Is it going to have a good return or not? Because, probably you'll think, oh, Barnes & Noble or any other bookstore, independent store, I want to be there, right? But maybe if you go to another event, that might even surprise you more in terms of sales, because maybe you landed in the right place with the right audience at the right time. Of course, everything has to be the right.
It's all about timing.
so
that's a great question.
Yeah,
that's a great question. So you're starting out, you are essentially a solo publisher, and you don't have a lot of funds, and big conferences are not smart because you're gonna burn through cash quicker than you can imagine. And so, like I mentioned, me being at the farmer's market, it was free because my neighborhood farmer's market allowed small businesses to showcase their business once a month for free.
Nice.
And there's no need for me to be at the farmer's market every Saturday. Once a month is enough.
Nice.
And so it was a 5-minute drive from my house. I spent 4 hours there. And what did that lead to? That led to a school visit. That led to more income through both book selling and being paid to present. And guess what? That school visit led to another school visit and other purchases, because people talk, teachers talk, schools talk, and they share information, right?
Yeah.
And so I have a friend that travels like everywhere. Like he will fly somewhere, he will drive long distances, and he may be all over town. And he's the kind of person that is like, he is hardcore go-getter, right? But that's just not my style. I want to do things within reason. So I really am very selective about what events I do locally and how much it's going to cost, right? If it's going to cost me $200, please tell me why I should spend $200 to be there for a day or two. Like, am I going to walk away with $1,000? Because if I'm not, why should I pay $200 to be there? Like, I should make at least times 4 what I spend to have a booth at that event. And I don't discriminate events. Like, I will go to a street festival, and you'll be surprised some of the street festivals turn into something, really great, because the cool thing about these kind of places, they're unconventional, right?
Yeah.
When you're self-publishing, you do things unconventionally, period. And you have to just be okay with that, right?
True. Yeah.
And so I've done, like local festivals, and then like sold out of my books. And that's a great problem. Like, I don't like to have to go home carrying all these heavy books again. Like, sell them, please. Take them.
That's the whole objective. Come back home with 0 books, right? You just want an empty box. That's it. Leave it.
Yeah. And always have, so you're getting the full price You're selling it at full price. You're not giving up. If it's now, you know, can you compare that to selling in a book in every bookstore across the country? No, you can't. But at the end of the day, there are not that many books that are going to make it on every single bookshelf in the country. It's
That's
almost
true.
impossible.
That's true.
To be no matter how big the publisher is.
That's
some
true.
books are just simply not going to be in every bookstore in the country.
And also, every launched has 3 months, maybe, to be right there in front of your face, depending if you're lucky, if they put it on an end cap or if they put it right in the window display, wherever you can see it. And maybe it has time of 3 months, because after it, there's so many titles coming at a given month that, you know, I recall I wanted some books of last year, and I couldn't find them. The store did not have them. You had to order them. Of course. Why? Because there's other 80 new titles coming in next year. So where in the world they're gonna keep the new titles for the titles of last year and the previous year, right? Whether you as an independent author constantly are going to work on your books, no matter if you have 1, 2, or 5 titles, because your babies, which we call them babies, right? Paper.
They are babies.
Yeah, they're gonna be.
I call this book my third child. This book is my. I have 2 kids. This is my third one.
Yeah, we call them babies. That's true. So, and it's always a joy to have a new book, right? It doesn't matter. These things that we're talking at, it's like, okay, wow, we're having another one coming soon.
Well, and the interesting thing that happened to me as I'm selling my books at events, and I sign the book and I give it away. And it's one thing I actually like to do when people say, oh, can I buy your book? And I'll say, sure. And I'll say, do you mind if I sign the book for you? And most people are like, of course, please sign the book. So I like to always say that because it just generates this like dramatic moments, right? When they're like, "Oh my gosh, she's going to sign it." Yeah,
it's special.
But once they walk away with the book, it's like another piece of me is leaving.
Yeah,
and I find myself just thinking, I really hope they enjoy this book, right? Yeah. It's too late. They've already taken the book. I don't know why I'm wishing, but it's already gone. But I do that. It's strange.
And that was the next question, actually. Now we're going to go back. We're going to move on, actually, not go back, but move on to exactly that. What happens after we sell the book, right? So now we know how to deal with the schools. We know where to go because we're doing our homework. We're doing research, right? And we're making sure that it's cost benefit to go to A, B, or C event, okay? So now let's talk about rewarding, right? Rewarding as, wow, now how do I know that X, Y, or Z liked the book? So if you're lucky, now with Instagram and Facebook, you can get messages from actually the person who bought the book if you have your information and if you have an Instagram page, because there's a lot of people that post and they actually talk about a book or they take a picture, right? And they actually send you thank you notes, or they say, my daughter loved this book because such and such and such, right? Or because of this or that.
I just got one this morning. It was the most adorable picture of this little boy in Canada holding my book.
Isn't that amazing?
And
that's cool.
And he wants, so Makanaka in the story has a transmitter. So now he wants a transmitter. And I was like, it's funny because my daughter is always talking about she wants a transmitter. So hearing the same, request this morning, I thought, maybe I should just make a toy transmitter just because.
Why not? It sounds like a great thing. Yeah. And that's the other thing. You don't need a big, huge publisher company to take those decisions and to go through and say, can we pass this? Can we authorize this? Can we do this? Does this make sense? If you can, then you can go ahead and slowly add on. Right? You can add on activity book. You can hopefully have a plush of your character, or if you don't have the money to
Anything.
use, you can have
Right.
one, and that one can go everywhere, right? Where you go, and it has to be done beautifully so it attracts attention, right? That prop.
Yeah.
And you just keep going on and on and on.
I have
Slowly.
explored
Steady.
doing, a plush toy or something, but then
That's another
in the
cost.
end,
That's another thing.
it's exactly,
It's
that's
more
what I
boxes
realized.
to warehouse. It's more money to spend. You don't have no guarantees yet, and you
Nope.
have to go slowly. Your book is your focus first, and then the
Right.
plush toy. If it happens, it will happen, right? Because you cannot
I
put
figured if I get to book 3 or 4,
yeah,
I will know if there's enough of a market
yeah,
for that cost.
yeah.
But with just one book, I thought that was just overkill. Like
Yeah,
just
and also I think that the plush toys also are very successful for books that have a sequence, right? That they have a volume 1, volume 2. I mean, I'm thinking about Elliot, the little elephant by Mike
hmm
Corrado, right? I mean, that little elephant
right.
traveled already to many places. Of course, it's
Yeah.
worth it for the publishing house to invest in a plush toy. That book already has a record of good selling.
Right.
It has lots of translations in different parts of the world. So, but it didn't took 1 year to that plush. I don't know if it took a year or not, but probably, no, because he was new too, and he started from the beginning, right? So it
Mm.
it takes time. It takes time to actually
It takes
things
time.
happen. So then about Instagram, girl, are you active in Instagram? Because we talk about promoting your book, marketing your book.
Very.
So do you market your book in Facebook, Instagram, or do you have a YouTube channel?
Oh no. Ah, man, this too
Twitter and
much
all
work to
this
do,
stuff.
right? I'm not on YouTube. I actually really like YouTube. Okay, I love YouTube, but I had to just say YouTube is not for me right now. At some point, it
I
will
love
be.
that one. Right now, maybe.
Yes, it's just about at the moment.
Yes.
This is what's best.
Good.
And I actually happen to like Instagram so much. I mean, Instagram has
Me
been a
too.
favorite of mine. And I have learned how to use that to connect with other people, authors, book bloggers, teachers,
Yeah.
which then led to an author visit, right? A teacher that I had been interacting with just, because we all love books and kids and teaching.
That's great.
And she's like, oh, hey, do you do author visits? And I'm like, yes, I do. And okay, so I sent her my info. She passed it on to her principal. Her principal emailed me. And then before you knew it, a school visit was booked. Like, there are so many ways that you can stumble into an author visit that you just don't even feel like, wow, how did that happen? So just keep your eyes and ears open and engage. Be excited about what you're doing. Share. And so one thing I actually focus on with my book, I don't focus on selling the book. I focus on sharing Makanaka and sharing the message behind Makanaka, because that taps into my passion. When I'm in the sharing mode, it really like brings me, it brings this energy out of me that is harder to do when you're focused on selling your book.
Yeah.
And that when I share more about myself or about the book I created, people seem to be, that I'm going to be drawn to it, will be drawn to it, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Actually, that's why, that's a great point you're bringing, because selling is one aspect of the business. And then you need to also do you need to search how and what tools you're going to use to sell the book.
Mm-hmm.
But also when you share about the actually idea and the ideal, right? Not only the idea, but the ideal behind the purpose, the objective of why did you write this book, then
Right.
it becomes more transparent and more authentic and more unique to yourself and to the rest of the world, because you are sharing
you are
that concept.
I'm going
right?
to share one thing that I also started doing recently, that I started reaching out to book subscription boxes
Nice.
I don't know if you've seen them, but there
Yes,
are
I have.
companies
I'm aware
out
of those.
there.
Yes,
You
yes,
have, okay,
yes,
yeah. So, and it's ironically, people don't know about this, right? And because I just happened to talk about it in one of our groups, and they were
yes,
like, "What is that? Does that exist?" And I was like, "Wow, yes, it
yes.
does."
It does.
And I just emailed one company and shared my book. And if you're interested, I'm happy to send you a PDF or send you a hard copy. And what do you know? They saw the PDF and they were like, "Can you send us a hard copy?" And I sent them that 2 hard copies, and they emailed saying, "Okay, we would like to feature your book in this upcoming month."
Yeah,
It's not, it hasn't happened yet. It's
yeah.
coming up in a few months. And
Great, great.
so, but you see what just happened? They didn't, I put myself out there because people don't even know you exist.
No, no, that's
People
another
don't
thing.
even know your book
Yeah,
exists.
yeah. The world is too big, and honestly, we are small. It's okay to say it, because if you put yourself thinking that everybody knows you, that that's not gonna take you any mileage. You get lost
Right.
with
You get
Facebook.
lost.
You get lost with
Yeah.
Instagram. It takes a while to develop your brand as an author, and until you don't have, I don't know, 10,000 emails, then you are gonna get
Right.
lost.
An indie author, you take a chance on yourself,
Yeah,
right? Don't say no to yourself, because you never know. Because they didn't choose my book because, I have a big platform, or I came highly recommended, or they know me personally. Their focus is, we want to bring diverse books to families. We want to bring high quality, diverse books to families. And they have a screening process, and they screen that book. They see the PDF. They like the PDF enough to say, "Okay, let's send me a hard copy." They like the hard copy enough to say, "We're going to feature it."
that's great.
And it happened, within a month of initial contact. So I was like, whoa, okay, I can do this with more companies. And sure enough, I started reaching out to more, and I got 2 more responses
That's
just in the
fantastic.
last week.
Congratulations.
And I don't know if those other 2 are going to feature my book.
But you're
I'm
making the call, right? You're actually doing it. You are making the effort to make.
because they didn't know I existed. They
Yeah.
didn't know Makanaka was out here, bringing joy to kids. So
That's great. That's great. So what is coming up? Tell us. Obviously, we have projects or new dreams out there. So
right.
what is your news, or your projects, or ideas, or next thing you are up to that you can share with us? That you can share with us.
Sure.
Whether you cannot, just keep it as a secret.
Yes.
And just
Yes. So Makanaka is part of a series, or at the beginning of a series, and I had a lot of debate on her next destination. I really wanted to take her to Zimbabwe, but I seemed to be really struggling putting the plot together. And so I got over the feelings of feeling bad about it, and just said, okay, I'm going to skip to the 3rd destination that I had planned. So she's going to be going to the North Pole, which is going to be like a wintry book. So that's going to come out probably towards the end of next year.
nice.
But before that comes out, I also have a totally different story. It's called Gogo's Garden, and that's going to be coming out in March. And that story, it was inspired actually by my childhood with my grandmother. We spent a lot of time in the garden. I mean, we
So sweet.
were in the garden all day, and we had a beautiful flower garden and a massive vegetable garden. We had everything. And so it's kind of a realistic fiction story. It's not all, step by step what we did, but a lot of the elements of the story are inspired by that time with my grandmother. And I have a fantastic illustrator from Liberia I'm going to work with on this, and I cannot wait to see him bring this to life. So for sure, you're going to see a March release, Gogo's Garden. It's essentially a farm to table kind of story. but there's a little bit of humor in there, and there's family, and there's gardening. So
Nice.
it's kind of a feel good kind of story, you know.
We have already something to look forward for 2021. Wow.
Yeah,
Exciting.
yeah. And so then the third thing I have is kind of I've been trying to do more humor just to see if I can push myself, you know. So there's another humor story. I don't know where in 2021 it's going to come out quite yet, but it is called How to Get to Africa. And it's a humor story that's in a quirky, silly, funny way just reveals to you that Africa is not a country. But yeah, there's lots of humor involved in the process of how you get
right. The title is definitely a humor because Africa is not the country. Right there.
Right.
It's cool and with humor.
Yeah. So that's a lot of work I've got already. I can't do it anymore. That's about it. That's my max.
That's great. So then I guess that we have to follow you in Instagram or Facebook and get to know, you know, what is out there, what is it coming. And
right.
That's great. Thank you for accepting this invitation. And we hopefully this is the first one of many, so we can follow your trajectory.
Yes, and I'll come back and chat some more.
Yeah, you can share more things later on.
Thank you for inviting me and for having me, letting me, you know, share all these things and all the awesome questions, you know, because it really helps.
Hopefully we cover some of the things, right? We could talk about it. These and many.
There's so much.
We covered something, and hopefully it's helpful to whoever wants to get into the publishing to become an independent author, or if it's already an independent author, maybe they can, you know, get inspired or motivated even more to do so in a amazing way. So Thank you, Christine. Good luck with all your projects.
My pleasure. And thank you. You enjoy the rest of your week.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Take care.